Welcome back to our Arbitress YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to learn how to make this beautiful jogger pocket that you see here. It's not just a flat pocket, it's a pocket with border, as you can see, and it also has a beautiful Ankara taping all around it for both the pocket and the flap. The pocket also has like an inverted pleat in between just to make it stylish, just like we see it here. You can see how neatly installed it is looking. I'm going to take you through how to cut and sew this in this way. This is something you like to learn. Kindly stay So you need three pieces for your pocket. The first one is the main pocket, and this measures around 14 and a half. You can use 14 and a half or 15. The width is 14 and a half, the length is 10 inches. So the 14 and a half width, I'm going to have a pleat. So when you fold into two, I'm going to pleat it. So by the time you sew in that inverted pleat, you have 9 inches or thereabouts. That's the first one. The second one is the border, which you are going to be sewing around the pocket, and it measures around 3 inches in length, and then the width is 30 inches. So my Mikado is 60 inches, so I have 60 inches, which will do two pockets there. And then the last one is going to be the flap, which is the cover. So this also measures about 9 to 10 inches. It should be the same width with your pocket, and then the length should be around 4 inches. Okay, so you have two for each pocket because it's going to serve as the main fabric and the lining. So those are the three pieces you're going to need to create. These are my pocket pieces, and I'm going to start with the main pocket. So to do that, I'm going to put it on fold by the 15 inches. Remember, this is the length. So I'm going to put it on fold by the 15 inches like this. You can use a pin to hold it so that it can stay in place. So once you fold it, I'm going to mark 4.5 inches from here, from the outside here. I'm going to mark 4.5 inches, and then the excess that I have is going to form the pleat. So from here, if you mark 4.5 inches, it means by the time I'm done sewing, I'll have 9 inches. That's the width I want for my pocket. If you want a width of 10 inches, it means you're going to mark 5 inches. So from here, for me, I'm marking 4.5 inches, which is here. So I'll mark the 4.5 inches. You can make it into a straight line, or you just mark where you are going to sew. So you come to the lower part as well, you mark the same 4.5 inches. Then you're going to take your ruler and connect it. Me, I'm not going to connect all through so that you can see the difference. So here I'm going to connect here, and I'm going to connect here. So what I'm sewing here is 3 inches. So from here I'm going to sew 3 inches upwards on both sides. So this is where my 3 inches stop. I'll come here as well. I'll mark the 3 inches here. So I'll take it to the sewing machine now, and then I'm going to run a stitch here. It stops here. I'm going to run another stitch here. It's going to stop here. So this middle part is going to be left opened. So I'm going to do the same thing for the second pocket. I've gone ahead to sew it. You can see I sew from the 3 inches. I only sew the 3 inches. This center part is going to be left opened. You can see. So that is what I'm going to use to create the plate. This is the second one. I just sew where I marked my line. So for you to be able to create your pocket neatly, you have to be ironing every step of the way. So now the iron here is what I'm going to use to create my plate. So what you just need to do now is to open it out, and then you press you can see the allowance that we have here. You're going to press it down, make sure that the center here is touching the center here. Just sort of make sure that you distribute it evenly. So you can see how I'm placing it. So once you place it like this, you are going to iron it. You are going to do the same thing for this one. So you can first create like a crease line here, and then that crease line is what you are going to match to where you sew. That way your fabric will be evenly distributed. So now you can add steam to it so that you need it to go flat. Remember, this is a Mikado fabric and it's quite thick. So you can add steam, whatever it is that you know can help you sew it as flat as possible. So whatever you know can help you iron it as flat as possible. So you iron it really flat. Okay, So you start by ironing on this side. When you iron on this side, you are going to turn it to the other side as well, and then you are going to iron it. So once you iron it, you will clearly see this pleat that we are trying to form. So we are going to do the same thing for the second pocket as well. So once you are done doing this, now we are going to go ahead now and tape it with Ankara fabric. Remember I said this will have taping. So if your own is not going to have taping, you can go ahead and sew your border all around. But for this particular one, it's going to be taped with Ankara. So I'm going to take pieces from the trouser that I cut, and I'm going to use it to tape the fabric round. So you are going to tape both the main pocket and the flap. So please bear in mind you are taping both the main pocket and the flap. I've ironed it, you can see. So this is the first pocket and this is the second pocket. Okay. Make sure that it is looking this flat. You can see that it's no longer puffing. So now for your taping, you're going to cut strips of your Ankara fabric like this. You are going to tape it all around. The only part you are not going to tape is the opening. Okay. You just choose any side where you want it to be your opening. But aside the opening, you're going to tape it. So to tape it, remember it is open like this. You're going to put it on fold, just like you have your bias, and then you place it here. So once you place it here, you're going to sew it like this. So here you can cut it or you can turn. If you know you can turn easily, you can turn. If not, you can cut it. So I'm going to take it to the machine so that you can see what I'm
So I'm
doing.
on the sewing machine now. All you need to do is to fold the Ankara into two like this, and then you're going to sew it round. So when you are sewing it round, it's taping, so it should not be too wide. It should not even be up to quarter of an inch. So you just sew it just to show that there's Ankara there. And when you get to the edge like that, you just cut it and continue. You can also turn. If you can turn directly, you can turn, but it's always easier to cut like this, and then you place it by the side and continue. It's going to be easy for you as against turning it directly, turning the Ankara directly. So when you sew it round like this is what you're going to have. If you have a weaving machine, you can go ahead and weave the rough edges. If not, you just need to take your border, and then you're going to hem one end of the border, because that is what you're going to sew to the trouser, and it's going to show. So if you cannot hem it, if you have a weaving machine, you can weave, but if you don't have a weaving machine, you can just hem it the way I'm hemming it, just like this. You fold it a little bit twice so that it can be neat. Then the other side that is not hemmed, you are going to be placing that side on your pocket like that, and then you sew round. You can place it directly on your pocket like this and sew, but I want to sew on the same seam line that I used to sew the taping. So I'm going to turn it the other way around in a way that my main pocket is going to be on top, so that I can easily follow that same line that I worked with earlier. So now you are going to be sewing it all around. So when you get to the corner here, you are going to leave your needle inside, then raise your foot up so that you can continue. You can see when you get to this corner again, you leave your needle inside and then continue sewing. You turn and continue sewing till you get to the end, and then you cut off the excess. So here you're going to cut the excess as well, because I don't want it too thick. That's why I did not include the selvage. So now you can see all this railing. Like I said, if you have a weaving machine, you can use it to weave, but we're going to top stitch it, so it's going to conceal it. So the next thing you're going to do now, that upper part where you don't have your Ankara taping, the Ankara taping is just on three sides. You are going to hem that upper part. That's the opening of your pocket. So you just fold it by maybe 1 inch or 0.75 inches. Fold like that, and then you're going to hem it. So once you hem it, this is what you're going to have. So the last thing to do now is to top stitch on it. So to top stitch on your pocket is very important, because that's going to give your pocket structure. You will notice that it is still flat. So once you top stitch on it, it's going to be firm. So just fold it and sew very tiny to the taping that you have, just to define that place. You can see it should not be wide. It should be very tiny, so very close to where you have your Ankara, and then you sew it all round where you have the taping. You can see that's the M, and then you're going to remove it and then sew on the second side as well. So you are going to sew it very tiny. You can take your time because it's a bit thick and your thread may be cutting, so you just sew it as slowly as possible. So once you sew it, you can see how your pocket is standing. So now you're going to bring the flap, which is the cover, and you do the same thing. You take your Ankara and then you sew it round the three corners. Okay, you sew it exact same way we sew for the main pockets. You cut it when you get to the that point, you put it again, and then you sew round, and then you sew close to the Ankara as much as possible because you don't want it too wide. So when you are done sewing the three sides like that, you leave the one side open. You are going to place the lining on it. You can use your pin to hold it, and then you sew on the exact same seam that you sew on to tape the Ankara earlier. So you sew on that point and then you bring it out. So if you bring it out and it's not coming out, just turn it and notch the corners so that it can relax well. And you're going to have it like this. So you take it to your ironing table and iron.
You can see now that I have gone ahead to iron it, so please make sure you iron it before you sew it to your body. So this is a flap. You can also top stitch on the flap if you want, but I'm not going to be top stitching on mine. You can top stitch on it just like we did for the main pocket. So this is what our pocket looks like now. I'm going to keep it aside and then we're going to work on the pants. The next thing now is to fix your pockets. Okay, we're going to be fixing our pocket. So you're going to bring the pockets that you have already done, and then you're going to mark where you want the pocket to be. So from my waistline, I'm just going to measure around 13 inches. I'll check where the my side pocket stops, which is here. So from there, I think around 13 inches is fine for me, which is here. So 13 inches is here. You can use your chalk to indicate where your pocket is going to start. So from here now, I have 13 inches, which is here. So I'm going to mark the 13 inches. So that is where my pocket is going to start from. So here, this center part of your pocket where you have that pleat, you are going to match it with the center of your pants. That's where the front and back meet, just like this. And then you're going to pin it so you can see the marking indicating where the pocket is starting. So I'm going to just pin it all around like this. So the normal pockets that you have under, you are going to raise it. This one, you are going to raise it up so that you're not going to pin it together with your cargo pocket. So here you can see I'm pinning it so that when I get to the sewing machine, I'm just going to sew. So please make sure that the pocket is looking good, is standing well before you start to pin. So I'm just trying to confirm that. So you're going to pin this side. When you get to the like this, you don't want it resting, so you're just going to lift it up a little bit like this. You're going to lift it up like this, and then you spread it out. Then you're going to pin it. Make sure that the center here as well is matching with the center of your trouser. And please make sure that you iron your trouser. You know that you just sew it, you iron it first before you pin this pocket on it so that everything will come out nice. So you can see my pocket is neatly pinned now. The next is for me to raise it like this and take it to the sewing machine and then sew it all around. So once I'm done sewing it all around, I'm going to bring in the flap, which is the cover. I'm going to first sew the flap like this, and then I'll flip it on the pocket and then top stitch on it. I'm still going to show you all of that. So we'll sew the pocket first now before we sew the flap.
Okay, so to sew it now, once you pin it down, you are going to gently sew around that place where you hemmed when you wanted to sew in the border. So you are going to sew around the pocket like that gently. So to turn, you just leave your needle inside the fabric and then you turn it to the corners. So once you are done sewing it all around, this is what you are going to have. So the last thing to do now is to tack it down. So you can see those places that are standing, you press it down and then you gently tack it. So you have to be careful here because it's now very thick. So you just tack it down on the two ends. This tacking is very important. So you tack it on the two ends and you have your pocket ready. So once you are done, you bring in the flap and then you place it on it. So if you notice that your flap is too long, please you need to reduce it because the difference between the flap and the main pocket should not be so far apart. So I went to reduce mine because it was too long, and then you're going to place it like this first. After placing it like this, you can trim it off if it's too much, the seam allowance, because you are still going to top stitch on it. So you can see how I placed it first. You are going to sew on it, trim the allowance if it's too much, and then you are going to fold this over the pocket so that I can top stitch. But when you are sewing this, make sure that your trouser is relaxing well, because if it's not relaxing, it's going to pack. So once you fold your flap, spread out the trouser very well so that it's not packing, and then you top stitch on it. So this is what you're going to have.
So the pocket is fixed now, and you can see how beautiful it is looking. So this is the pocket. This is what it looks like on the inside. So you're going to cut off all these threads that you have there. This is what it looks like when you're done installing your pocket. You can see that this part is neat. Okay, so once you sew it, you trim and you top stitch, it will give you something this neat. And then the tacking here on these two ends is also very important. If not, your pocket will be opening down. So when you are done sewing it around like this, you are going to tack it down on these two ends, just like this. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in